We've been learning about the ways that people can affect the places where they live. Perhaps one of the most beautiful examples is the city of Venice. Where is Venice, and what makes it so special? Venice is a city in northeastern Italy. There it is, right up near the water. That's important for later. There are around 267,600 people who live in Venice. Venice is made up of a collection of islands that are surrounded by a lagoon. That is, a stretch of salt water that is separated from the sea by a low coral reef, or, like in the case of Venice, a low sandbank. Lagoons can be found all over the world. Venice is known as the floating city because the way that the water surrounds all of the little islands gives the appearance that the city is floating atop the water. Let's take a satellite look at Venice. See if you can pick out any rivers or canals between the islands. Take note of how the buildings seem to be sitting in little clusters between the ribbons of water, so that it looks like the city is floating. Imagine what Venice looked like before the city was built. Before people started building the city of Venice, when they first arrived at the place, the area was made up of marshy lagoons. Marshy means waterlogged, muddy, squelchy and swampy. Do those words paint a picture in your head? Does that sound like somewhere you'd want to build a city? There are a number of factors that led people to build Venice on that marshy lagoon. There were some conflicts or wars happening around the area, which led people to flee or run away from their homes. They needed somewhere new to live. The lagoon is between the sea and the rest of Italy. Remember, it's separated by that low sandbank. That makes it easy to defend from those annoying wars being fought where the people used to live. The harbours that are necessary for big trade ships to visit could be built in soggy ground, which would bring wealth to the city. And the people there could easily access the sea for travel or fishing. But how do you build a floating city? Is it really balanced on top of the water? Actually, Venice was built by driving planks of wood, they're called piles, deep down into the ground, through the soggy silt until they reached hard clay. How far down do you have to dig in your backyard before you get to that red layer that just won't budge? Then, wooden platforms were built across the top of the piles. Once the platforms were finished, buildings and pathways were constructed on top. That's pretty hard to imagine, right? In a moment, we'll have a look at an animation that shows us how that happened. The animation strips away the layers of construction to show us the foundations of the city. Take away the water, take away the concrete, take away the wooden platforms. See if you can see the wooden piles sitting there in the silt on either side of the canal. What do the buildings of Venice look like? Grand palaces, that means fancy and big. Churches, businesses and residential homes, several stories high with lots of windows. To put the age of the city into perspective, people started building there around 400 years before Jesus' birth. Venice doesn't have roads like other cities. The islands are connected instead by canals, that means big channels built to allow big ships passage, and rivers. People get around by gondolas. There's a picture of two in action, complete with the gondolier in a striped shirt. Or by walking, crossing between the islands on bridges that have been built over the waterways.